is Rafi Guzon, and you are tuned in to Nothing But That Sports Talk. Welcome to another episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafi Guzon alongside a new special guest. Obviously, I've interviewed his friend and work partner, Rachel, a couple times on Planted Not Buried, and earlier this year to build up for the HBCU All-Star Summer Dreams Classic in Rucker Park. Now I get to interview her partner, who I've actually met while covering Nike Pro City, and he's also involved with Harlem Renaissance Classic, not just this year coming up, but in recent years. Darryl K Roberts, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me. That summer event that Rachel and I worked on together, was epic, and I was glad to see you there covering it, as I've seen you at many other events, including the Pro City that they did at LIU this summer.
Yes, awesome. LIU, my alma mater, and I know I'm wearing a Forum sweatshirt, but this is where I went to school as well. So yeah, that's why I wear it. That's why I got the sweatshirt. But on top of all that, why don't you talk a little bit about how, for your own words, how the partnership between you and Rachel went about and began?
So Rachel and I have, worked on other projects together. She's an HBCU alum, member of a D9 organization, just like myself. So the energy between the two of us was, off the chart. I mean, it's almost like she knew what I was getting ready to say before I said it, and likewise. So when we came together for the HBCU All-Star Dream Classic, it was a marriage made in heaven, and we were able to put that event together in 90 days. Let me say that again. In 90 days. And I do not advocate that people put together events with such a very narrow window. But because she and I were working on the same page together, it was something that we worked on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we were able to get it done at Rucker Park on August the 5th, and you were there. So, it was an outstanding event, which we plan on doing again in 2024.
That's what I'm talking about, but based on the way they're structured, how do you plan to build off the success of last summer's Rucker Park event, incorporate that into this year's Harlem Renaissance Classic, especially since it's taking place at the legendary Gauchos Gym? And I've heard so much stories about how, the Gauchos Gym is one of the most iconic gyms for basketball in the New York markets.
Yeah. Well, all of our events, Rafiq, revolve around historically Black colleges, the community, and corporate brands. So to make the transition from the HBCU All-Star Dream Classic to the Harlem Renaissance Classic really isn't that difficult, because we're dealing with the same fan base. We're dealing with the same historically Black colleges and universities. And the sponsorship partners that we have for this event are similar to the ones that we have in the summer. The difference being the All-Star game during the summer, we represented 28 different HBCUs. We had 40 players representing 28 different schools. So, we had a broader landscape of schools to deal with. For the Harlem Renaissance Classic, the focus is more on education, culture, sports, and innovation. And, we're able to put that together by inviting two historically Black colleges to New York City. This year, we're going to be bringing Winston-Salem State University and Elizabeth City State University. And they're going to play against two local area, what we refer to in our industry of education, PWIs, predominantly white institutions. And we produced the event the past 4 years, underneath of that umbrella, because we thought it was very important for the community at large to really see the HBCUs on equal ground as a institution of higher education, as they do all of the other institutions that are located in the United States. And it's worked out well. We've gotten a lot of students that were kind of on the fence in terms of where they wanted to go to school, and now we're able to introduce them to an additional option be that in HBCUs as higher educational institutions. And, and it's an exciting event. We bring the entire college experience. We bring the bands, we bring the cheerleaders, we bring the D9 organizations, and, we bring the energy. We have one of the top, DJs and top MCs in the area, creating the excitement within the historic Gauchos Gym. Now, the historic Gauchos Gym is something that, I don't know whether many people know this or not, but there are over 30 current or former NBA players that had their embryonic beginnings at the historic Gauchos Gym. So that was one of the draws in getting the teams to consider that as a venue instead of the more spacious Nat Holman Gymnasium at CCNY that we've used previously.
Exactly. And I will say this, based on the advertisements, the fact that you guys are doing that at the Gauchos this time, I got to give credit where credit's due. I like the fact that somebody within the NCAA realms is bringing college basketball in historically historic as a Gauchos Gym. And I've heard so much stories about it. I actually had a chance to go check out the Gauchos Gym before I even knew that it was the Gauchos Gym. When New York versus New York was doing their games there in 2019, of course, that event was supposed to be at Watson. But they did at the Gauchos Gym, so it was a blessing in disguise. I got to go check out a high school game being played there, and I was so amazed by how it was well organized. The players showed out, and imagine how amazing it will be when you finally put together an event there. Sorry, Rachel's not involved this year, but it's just something that you can't ignore.
Right. Well, she's involved spiritually, and for the first 3 years of the event, she was there. I'm not sure if she's going to make it to New York, for this year's event. But, one of the things that, people are going to recognize and be in awe of when they walk into the gym, and it's a real small gym. We don't have the space there that we've had at, City College previously and other venues that we've used in the past. But one of the things that you'll notice when you walk into the gym, first of all, it's an NBA-sized gym floor, number one. And it's the floor that they have at Gauchos Gym is the floor from the original Madison Square Garden. So that's another piece of history that you're going to walk on when you get into Gauchos Gym. And then you'll look up at the rafters. And just like when you go to like Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, which is now TD Bank Garden, you look up at the rafters and you see famous NBA players. You're going to look up at the rafters at Gauchos Gym, and you're going to see names like Stephon Marbury, Kemba Walker, Mark Jackson, Kenny Anderson, Chris Mullin, Jamal Mashburn, Sham God. You'll probably spend most of your time on your phone recording yourself with that as a backdrop. And that's worth the price of a ticket in and of itself.
Exactly. You know what? I kind of got an idea about that when I watched the Point Guards documentary. The Point Guards documentary, literally focused on New York point guards that descended their basketball career in the New York area. Yeah, that documentary. And they talk about playing their games at the Gauchos Gym.
Yeah, they do. And this summer, of course, Kenny Anderson was one of the coaches of the at the HBCU All-Star Dream Classic. He spoke of the trip that he had to take from Queens, where he grew up, to the Bronx, like 5 days a week for practices at Gauchos Gym. So, it's a facility that has a certain aura, a certain mystique, a certain draw to it. And when we spoke to the 4 coaches that are going to be competing in this event, and I told them, listen, this year we're going to be playing the games at Gauchos Gym, they said, how'd you do that? I said, well, inspiration, motivation, and a little bit of luck. They said, well, our players are going to be so happy because, to be playing in a historic event like the Harlem Renaissance Classic, but then you cap it off by being able to play at a venue that was the spawning ground for some great NBA players and some great people. I mean, those names that I mentioned, Mark Jackson is doing some great things right now. Of course, Kenny is down, coaching at Fisk University, another HBCU. And, Stephon Marbury is doing great things over in Asia. So when you take a look at those individuals that, their jerseys are hanging from the rafters, these are not just people that excelled on the basketball court. These are people that excelled in life.
Exactly. And you know what? I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier this week about how sometimes New York ballers they get too much hype during the high school basketball career, going into the NBA, and then coming out the NBA and during their NBA careers or coming out the NBA, they're not what you expect them to be. Because it's just so hard to play in that league. But even if they're not finding success in the NBA, they're at least finding success doing something else.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, making it to the NBA is no easy task. And one of the things that we try to emphasize through our programs, especially the program we did this summer at Rucker Park, was that all 40 of the players that participated in the inaugural HBCU All-Star Dream Classic received their degrees. So, I mean, it's great to utilize basketball, the leverage of basketball to get to the next level. But once you get to the next level after that is not guaranteed. So you need to take advantage of the opportunity that's been afforded to you to get that degree and then be able to move forward with your life, because no one can ever take that away from you.
Nobody can ever take it away. And you know what? Not while we're subject to continue talking about it, you mentioned to the colleges that are going to be playing is Elizabeth City State University, the NC Vikings, and Winston-Salem State University NC Rams. So yeah, when you look at those teams, like what do you think the players can gain out of their first few experiences playing at the Gauchos Gym?
Well, first of all, for all four teams, coming to New York, and I know we'll get much debate, and I've got a lot of friends that live in Chicago, live in Baltimore, live in LA, but New York is the mecca of basketball. Even when we've had really bad teams at MSG, it sells out. So, this has been the spawning ground of a lot of people that have not only made it in the NBA, but made it in life. And I think the players that are coming in for all four teams, you had mentioned the two North Carolina teams, Winston-Salem State and Elizabeth City State coming in. But we also have Bloomfield College out of New Jersey and Holy Family University out of Philadelphia. Their players are going to get a lot out of this as well, because when you look at their rosters, there are very few players that are on those rosters that are from the New York metropolitan area. So for them to come into New York City and have a chance to play in a historic venue, I mean, this is something that, believe me, when they're sitting there with their grandkids and their kids and they're talking about, their journey and their narrative when it comes to playing basketball, one of the places that they're guaranteed to talk about is that they played a game in Gauchos Gym. Exactly. Without question.
Exactly. You can't take away from that. You really can't. I mean, you can't build a story like this. I mean, I know you've had Harlem Renaissance Classic before during the first 3 years, but when you look back at that, I mean, what is it like for the beginning phase? Like, what are some of the struggles you've had when trying to get people engaged into this particular event on a year in, year out basis prior to doing it at the Gauchos Gym?
Well, of course, being a graduate of New York area school, there are no HBCUs in the New York area.
Sadly.
So the closest HBCU is going to be two schools located right out of Philadelphia, and that's Lincoln University, the first degree granting HBCU, which is my proud alma mater, and Cheney University.
No way to cut you off, but that's the school that my co-host Ryan Walker went to, by the way. Not the first, but the oldest HBCU school around.
Yes, no question about it. And we get into debates about that with people all the time. Cheney founded 1837, Lincoln founded 1854, but Lincoln was the first degree granting. So, we do have a lot of HBCU alumni that live in the New York tri-state area. But it seemed to be lacking, like in 2019, 2020, when we were putting together the model for this concept. There were no real engagement opportunities as it related to sports. And even though the games that are played at the Harlem Renaissance Classic are basketball, sports, the true focus and emphasis of the event is a much larger issue. What we try to do with these events is, number one, try to engage with the community, try to bring out, alumni that have been kind of detached from their schools, and we try to shrink the racial divide. The format that we use is not your typical format for HBCU classics, where you have an HBCU playing against an HBCU. So we've been doing that for 185 years. But one of the things that we really looked at when putting this concept together was, where are we in terms of social justice? Where are we in terms of discrimination and issues that have plagued the Black community? And we saw that, for an event like this, for it just to be sports, where we're misfocusing on what the big picture is. So by us bringing an event like this to New York, where we have HBCUs who were formed because African Americans in this country were not allowed the opportunity for higher education, and have them play against schools and institutions that were enabled that opportunity, we would get the community, not only the HBCU alums, but people in general that attend the event, to understand that HBCUs are on a level playing field with all institutions of higher education.
The demographic portion is always one of the main issues you have amongst not just HBCU schools, but schools across the world. And that's something that I'm glad that you're actually putting that into a lot of thought.
Yeah, well, it was critical because we wanted to do something that was really unique. Just like having the first NCAA game at Gauchos Gym, the first time you've had, an HBCU All-Star game at Rucker Park, we try to find opportunities to kind of leverage the brand of my nonprofit to things that have never really been accomplished before. So that was something that had never taken place in New York. Years ago, we've had classics that have come through for a couple years, and it's always been like, Virginia State, Virginia Union, Grambling against Morgan. But, we do those all the time. So we really wanted to add a really unique layer to the production and bring people out and really get them to walk away thinking that, wow, HBCUs are pretty cool. Maybe I'll consider sending my child there. Or maybe as a guidance counselor, the guidance counselor will have a little bit more information to add to their, presentation and description to their students in terms of where they may spend the 4 years after graduating from high school.
Exactly. I mean, well, there are a lot, and it's also, you got to take consideration as far as like that type of mindset. It's not just the African Americans that are going to HBCU schools. It's also white people going there as well. Because I've interviewed this young girl named Abigail Owai, shout out to her, who went to Coppin State University, and it's an HBCU school. Yes, there are white people that can attend HBCU school. If they can attend the Ivy League, if they're smart enough if they're talented enough, it's smart enough for Columbia or any Ivy League school, they're smart enough to attend HBCU schools. HBCU schools are more diverse than any other school across the landscape.
Yep, exactly. And shout out to Abby. I don't know whether this came up in your conversation, but Abby is an awesome basketball player.
Yes, she is. I've seen highlights. I've seen highlights of her been winning the Boys and Girls Days. I've seen it. She been
right.
I know you probably see my interview with her, and she was really amazed. And she was also amazed. I interviewed one of her former teammates from Coppin State too, and one of her former teammates told her that I interviewed her. That's how that's how proud I am that my interviews gave engagement.
Right. Yeah, no question about it. Abby and I have talked on numerous occasions from a content creation side, and I got to know her, and her athleticism is off the chart. So word out to all the male listeners that may be from the Bobby Riggs, and I know that's going back, but Bobby Riggs was a real male chauvinist back in the day, and he challenged Billie Jean King and got beat national television at the Astrodome. So don't challenge Abby to a one-on-one if you just get to on that game. I'm warning you right now. I've seen her play.
You seen Abby Wise play?
Yeah.
Like based on overall talent, I mean, like, what do you think that amazes you about an overall basketball talent on the court?
Well, one of the things that I've learned, and I lived in Chicago for a while, and I got to know several coaches. One, Coach Dorothy Gators, legendary coach, Marshall High School, Chicago, Illinois. Several of her players have gone on to bigger and better things. One of their players, Cappy Poindexter, actually played in the New York metropolitan area at Rutgers. One of the things that I've learned about female athletes, they have this tenacity that's in their DNA. And when they participate in sports, it's winner take all. And I got to see that up close and personal with some of the coaching sessions of Coach Gators at Marshall High School, and her players were tenacious. So I used to always tell my male friends when they would comment to me that female basketball players don't have what it takes. I said, well, you don't want to get into a one-on-one situation with a world-class, well-trained female athlete because they take no prisoners. So that's one of the attributes that Abby has because she's a fitness phenomenon and she does an awesome job on the business side as well. And I'd always welcome her on my team.
Exactly, and the fact that I got to see her to the HBCU Wicker Park event, we built a strong connection. She's very conversational. She knows a lot about basketball, and she knows a lot about statistics as well.
Yeah, no question about it, man. I have a conversation with her. If you're not on your P's and Q's, don't get into any debates.
Yeah,
because you'll end up on the short side.
Yeah, you don't want to disrespect women that play basketball. You don't
Right.
want to do that. But the fact and you know what? I'll say this. I've seen so many HBCU basketball games taking place in the New York tri-state area, from the Legacy Classic that Michael B. Jordan did to did. So yeah, all I gotta say is, I mean, what and the media that actually covers the Legacy Classic, but which leads to one question. I mean, what do you think that media professionals like myself can gain from covering this event from a storyteller perspective if we choose to cover it?
Okay, so I appreciate all of the classics that seem to have popped up around the country post George Floyd. One of the things that I really feel differentiates, our classic format from the other, and which is why I feel that, from a journalism standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, there's a unique opportunity for, writers and journalists to come out and really create some attention-grabbing stories about the event. We take our event where others have refused to go. Our event every year is right in the heart of urban America. And urban America is a part of this country right now where there are struggles. There are struggles as it relates to healthcare. There's struggles as it relates to housing. There's struggles as it relates to to education in general. There's struggles as it relates to workforce management. So when we bring an event like the Harlem Renaissance Classic, we bring an aspect of society that we're really trying to focus the microscope on. We're in the South Bronx this year. The previous years we've been in Harlem. There are plans now that we've been able to shed our training wheels and we can go full circle, that we're going to take this event in future years to the heart of Brooklyn. We're going to take it to the heart of Queens. We're going to take it to the heart of Staten Island. And I mean, if we could get it right in the heart of Stapleton houses, we're going to do that, because those are the communities that can benefit most by seeing, role models that are at the next level. And we're all about creating role models, mentors, people that you can aspire to be like as you move forward in life.
Exactly. And that's a very interesting point. Now, get into the teams that you picked to play in the HBC All-Star Classic. Let's start off with the why they're selected to play. Started with Winston-Salem State.
Well, Winston-Salem State, 2 out of the past 3 years, they've won the CIAA. And they were here last year. We honored Earl Monroe, one of their, legendary graduates, played for the Knicks, top 50 NBA player, Hall of Fame, all that. So Winston-Salem, brings a unique brand of play to the court. I mean, they kind of personify what John McClendon, legendary coach at what was North Carolina College for Negroes, which is now North Carolina Central University. And he also won 3 national championships at Tennessee State with Dick Barnett. He had a very unique offensive style, fast pace up and down the court, press from end to end. So Winston-Salem State is very similar to that. They're coached by a legendary coach, Cleo Hill Jr., whose father, Cleo Hill Sr., was also the coach at Winston-Salem State previously. So they have a very unique style that kind of epitomizes the CIAA play. So Elizabeth City State University, similar. They have a very unique academic program in aeronautics. So we wanted them to have some exposure in the New York area. So if you're in the community or if you're listening to this and you're interested in getting a degree in aeronautics, Elizabeth City State University is one of the schools that you want to consider. Bloomfield, out of Bloomfield, New Jersey, legendary coach, Gerald Holmes. He brings a lot to the table in terms of coaching skill, coaching tenacity, and a significant record as it relates to wins and losses in the CACC conference. And the same can be said for Holy Family University, coached by Ryan Haig. Ryan's a young coach, upstart, always brings together a great team with players coming out of the Philadelphia and South New Jersey area. So you're talking about inner city Philadelphia kids out of the Cherry Hill, Camden area. So there'll be 2 exciting matchups with 4 teams that are going to pressure you from baseline to baseline, and they're going to sink the threes, and there'll be a lot of slam dunks in these 2 games. I guarantee that.
Yeah, there's always slam dunks at any basketball event going down in the New York area, because New York is a mecca of basketball. Connecticut is the basketball capital of the world, but New York is a mecca. And when you bring in that, and when Winston-Salem State players are bringing that talent to the New York area, you're going to get some engagement, not just in basketball, but in the media market as well. I mean, for what I witnessed in recent years, Winston-Salem State is known to produce media products like Stephen A. Smith, who after an ankle injury, he decided, you know what, I'm going for journalism. I've seen interviews, got to know his career from his own perspective of why Winston-Salem State is what it is right now. And ESPN First Take took the time to actually go down there to do their live show in front of these Winston-Salem State student alums. And it's important when one of the most top ESPN television shows was on television, get to do their live shows down there due to the fact that Stephen A. Smith is an alum at that school. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Well, when they did First Take last week or week before last at Winston-Salem State, a lot of it had to do with Stephen A. Smith. But when you take a look at the accomplishments that schools like Winston-Salem State have had in terms of higher education, they produced an extraordinary number of graduates. So when you take a look at their graduation rates, the graduation rates for Winston-Salem State University are very high, and they have diverse programming there. So when you talk about, everything from architecture to zoology, you have an opportunity to major in something like that at Winston-Salem State. And their athletics are legendary.
Exactly. And you know what? When you're trying to get the best education possible for the skill you want to learn, you're at least getting it at Winston-Salem State right now. And I'm told that it wasn't always like this from its early beginnings of the school being built from the ground up. So the fact that it's actually getting some engagement from the media and the New York market is something to behold.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the this is one of the attributes of the Harlem Renaissance Classic. You know, when we bring the schools north, and of course, all the schools are coming north to get here. So when we bring them north, we give them an opportunity to not only engage with fans on the basketball court, but we give them an opportunity to engage outside of the basketball court as well. For example, this year, Elizabeth City State University is going to be doing a fan fest session with well, I'm not going to mention the name of the school because they probably want to keep it private, but they're going to be doing a fan engagement session with a local New York area high school, which is going to enable them to engage not only with the students, but the student athletes, the cheerleaders, and also administration. So this bodes well for this particular high school in the future because they will have developed a relationship where getting one of their students or student athletes into that school is just a phone call away.
Exactly. I love the fact, and I love how these schools are making a major impact within this community.
Yeah, it's an exciting it's an exciting opportunity for my organization to be able to do this event every year and to be able to, you know, expand on just basketball. You know, basketball, you know, as Nelson Mandela said, is a sport that has the ability to change the world. And, you know, we want to utilize it to make changes within our small communities and to grow it from that point. You know, originally it just started out being in Harlem, but we thought that, you know, we would not be selfish. We would share it with the rest of the 5 boroughs in the New York City area, and taking it to the Bronx for the 2023 event is going to enable us to do that going forward.
Exactly. Well, I can't wait to see how those games come in fruition as well. You can catch the Harlem Renaissance Classic taking place at 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So there's 2 different games at an earlier start time compared to last year. And yeah, the fans will get excited to come. You can expect a lot of engagement.
Right. And, you know, there still are some tickets available. You know, go to Eventbrite, Harlem Renaissance Classic 23. There are some tickets still available, but get there early. There will be a block party starting at 10 o'clock on Gerard Avenue. So we have a lot of things planned for this particular event. So, you know, don't miss out on it.
Don't miss out. And now after this episode, Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you so much, Darryl K Roberts, for coming on. And for Darryl Roberts, Rafiq Lewis on. We'll see you next time.
Can't wait. Take care. See you on the 25th, Rafiq.